Okay, on this particular video we're going to give a run through how a typical split system alarm would be set up. The panel we're using is a HKC 1070 or 10270 is the latest version of the alarm panel. It can be split into 8 separate blocks. Typically for us in a domestic situation it would rarely be split into more than 2 blocks. Commercials obviously have their own unique requirements, but in this example we're talking about a system that's going to be split into 2 separate areas. Area 1, block 1 is going to be the house area. Area 2, block 2 is going to be the studio area, and then obviously you have, we'd say, what's referred to as the common area. So within the system you will have a minimum in this system of 3 codes. On your average everyday system where all the zones are common, you'll have 1 code to switch everything on and 1 code to switch everything off, and you have exactly the same in a split system, and that particular code is called a master code or a main code. And what that does, when you enter that code, it will switch all the areas on. In this case there's 2 separate areas, the house and we're calling it the studio, but you can call it an apartment. It'll work for a garage. Substitute whatever description you need to into there, but in this particular example we're just going to go with house or studio. So if you want to set your alarm and you want to set both the house and the studio at the same time, you will use your master code. Now what we've done over here, just to give a small bit of a visual aid, we just have these relays with a LED indicator set up that will show you when the areas will be set. So we say if we come along and we enter our code, and in this example we have 0 and 4 trees.
System arming.
What we've done with the exit timer is we actually have the exit timer on this particular one running at 30 seconds. We set the exit timer on block 1 and block 2 for 5 seconds. So we'll just let this count down there. Typically example would be 20 seconds or 30 seconds on the exit timer. You don't really want it too long, but it depends on how far away your keypad is from your exit door. So at the moment block 1 and block 2 are switched off, and there you have it. So that's using your master code. When you enter your master code, it will switch on all the areas on the system, which in this case is block 1 and block 2. The house and the studio are switched on, and to switch it back off, then same principle applies. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 trees.
System unset.
And we have our both areas there, the house and the studio, after switching off. Now one thing there to take note of is that the code is in actual fact 4 trees, but I'm using 0 before the code, and that is a very good habit to get into. We would recommend that you use 0 with your code at all times, because what 0 actually does is it resets the screen for you. So if you have a problem entering your code and you press 0, it'll take it back to the start for you, whereas if you have a problem and you don't press the 0, even though you might be entering the correct code the second time around, you actually only end up adding on to the wrong code that's inside, and you go around in a vicious circle, and eventually gets to the stage where your timer's after counting down and you have sirens and stuff going off. So if you get into the habit of using 0 within your code, you'll never have a problem entering your code, unless of course you forget the code entirely, which is a different problem entirely. So that's your master code. Your main code sets both areas. Now if you had a situation where you wanted to set the house area by itself, and there might be someone working in the studio or whatever the case may be, you're heading out, you want to set the house, basically you'll enter the code that's associated with, in this instance, block 1, which is the house alarm, which is in this case 0 and 4 ones. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
System arming.
Over 5 seconds, counting down there, block 1 for the house, and after we get our 5 seconds, there we go. So in this instance you can see that block 1, the house, is armed, and block 2, the studio, is switched off. And then when you return home from whatever, and you come into the house and trigger your entrance route, either by breaking a contact on the door, or it might be a case you might have a motion detector system that once you come in through the entrance route, entrance door, once the motion detector picks you up, it'll start your countdown timer and switch off the prompt you to enter your code to switch off the alarm. So in this case again, 0 and 4 ones, and that will switch off the alarm system for you. And likewise for block 2, the studio alarm, and the house, which tends to be the most common area, as in if you've an outside office, a garden office, or you have a garage, or you have a shed, a lot of time you'll have people within the house, and the house will be occupied, but there might be lots of stuff of value within the garage, studio, and you know it's going to be unattended for a while. You're not going to be able to set the alarm in the house, or it's not practical to set the alarm in the house because there's loads of people around, but your studio is empty, so you'll just set the studio area by itself. So 0, in this case 4 twos, is for your studio area, and that will set the studio area for you. Okay, so that's showing there that your studio area is set and your house area is unset. Now your keypad is showing your that block 2 is set there. Again, it's dependent. In this case, we're using a wired keypad. If you have a wireless keypad, you'll know you need to press the button on the keypad to wake it up and get it to scroll up there for you. But so block to unset block 2, 0. And your four twos. So that's how that works. The 1 or 2 things to be careful of in terms of activations, how we set up, or the majority of our systems, it's not obviously 100% hard and fast rule, but a typical example would be for the CERNs, we say in block 1, the internal CERN in block 1 will be assigned to block 1. The inside CERN in block 2 can be assigned to block 2. So what I mean by that is, if your alarm is set, if you're after doing if you just, we say, set the house side, and maybe in the case of a studio, or if it was a granny flat or something like that, if the alarm goes off, and you have the house side set, then your inside CERN will only go off within the house area. If you're after doing a full set, it will still be the same. So what I mean by that is, if you've used your master code to set both areas, the internal bell will ring in whichever area has activated. So if you've master set the system and you have an alarm in the studio, then it will be the internal bell within the studio will ring, and your external bell is actually set up as a common bell. What that means is the external bell will ring regardless of whether it's block 1 or block 2, but your keypad will tell you which area is after activating. Or if you're unsure as to what area is active, you can actually unset using your master code. So what I mean by that is, we'll just set the studio area there, and using our code for the studio, which is 4 twos, and we'll wait for that to set, and your studio alarm is after setting there now. Now you can of course unset it using the code that's assigned to block 2, but if you use your master code, that will actually unset it all. So once the once you have an area that's set. So if you're coming into a system and you want to unset an area, basically, or a number of areas, you can just enter your master code, which is in this case is 0
System
and 4
unset.
trees, and that will unset all areas for you. So if the alarm is activating and you don't know whether it's if you both areas set, you'll use your master code. You'll use your master code to unset the system. So the other thing that we might need to just touch on briefly there is you can, same as with a system that isn't split, is that you can have your key fob for setting and unsetting the areas. What you will find is that your key fob is associated with a code. So if your code, for example, is set up to set area 1, which is the house area, and your fob is linked to area 1, then that's the area it will set. Your fob, if your fob is linked to area 2, same, and if your fob is linked to the common area, well, again, it will set all areas for you. So you need to just have a chat with your installer, just see which way your fob is set up. But whichever code the fob is linked to, if it's linked to block 1, it'll set the house. In this instance, if it's linked to block 2, it'll set the studio, and if it's linked to block 3, it will set and unset everything for you. The only other thing, just a quick mention there, of course, is the our indicator lights, which are the same as on a system that wouldn't be split. You have your green power to show that your electricity is on, and basically once that's on and steady, it will show you that your electrical supply is good. Should your electrical supply go out, then that light will start to flash. You'll get a fault light, and your alarm light will light up also. Now again, it would be a very common query we get from our customers is, how do you stop the beeping? And very simply, just enter your code. You can enter your master code. Would probably be the best one again to use for this. So basically 0 and your 4 trees.
System unset. Panel mains bolt.
And what we
Mains
would
bolt.
what we
11
would
November
so
12.
to stop being interrupted
24.
when you're trying to talk or to gather your thoughts,
Mains bolt.
quit. Okay, so what would be saying to people there is that to keep an eye on the keypad. These systems are very, very good in terms that they will tell you what the problem is. 99% of anything out of the ordinary that you will encounter, basically enter your code and see what the keypad says. Now obviously at that stage, if you still don't know what the problem is, or if you need assistance in relation to it, then you can ring your installer and basically, but like the information we'll be looking for is what is the keypad saying, and once you're able to relay back to us what the keypad is saying, then we will be able to advise from there. So like say that's your power light and your fault light there.
Panel mains bolt.
Or continue. No, so in power cut, you do have the option of arming the system, but it will ask you do you want to continue arming. Basically, if you don't do anything for I think about 30 seconds, it'll arm itself. But if you want to speed up the process,
System arming.
just say yes, and that'll start your timer. And obviously, because we're using our master code and we're setting the 2 blocks, we have our 30 second timer. So your green light flashing is an indicator that your electrical supply is gone. Now if your alarm system is set and the power goes out, the keypad doesn't actually beep at all. So in an armed condition, the keypad doesn't actually beep. So that basically you can if you're asleep in your bed and the power goes out in the middle of the night with your alarm on, you won't be woken up. But if your alarm system is off, it will actually beep, and you'll need to enter the code. Now, the one other thing that we didn't mention earlier there is that on this demo we're actually only using one keypad, but again, with a split system you will tend to have more than one keypad, as in we'd say whatever areas you tend to have a keypad, a minimum of one keypad within those areas. So in this instance, you'd have a keypad in the house, and you'd have a keypad in the studio, and you'll be able to set and unset within those areas. Now, when the system is being set up, what tends to happen is the keypads associated with the house alarm or block 1 would be assigned to block 1, and likewise for block 2. So what this means is that when we'd say, again, if you had somebody in the likes of a granny flat in block 2, and you were going out early in the morning or whatever time, you don't want the exit timer sounding and waking up the person in the other area, and vice versa. So your keypads would tend to be assigned in that way. So it's just something to note that we'd say if you can actually set the different areas from we'd say we say if you were in block 1 and you wanted to set block 2 from the block 1 keypad, you can actually do that. But what you'll find is that if the keypad is assigned to area 1, you won't have your exit buzzer the same way that you'll have it on your block 2 keypad. So I don't know if that's making very much sense now, because to be fair, you probably want a second keypad and more relays, etc. But if you're setting different areas and you find that the buzzer might be, your exit buzzer might be working in for one area and not the other, it's probably down to the fact that your keypad are assigned to different areas. You can of course ask your installer, and they will be able to clear that up for you. But again, just to recap, split system, this instance, we've 2 separate areas, 3 codes. Your master code, switch everything on. Master code switches everything off, and then your code. So your block 1 code, ARM block 1, block 2, ARM and disarm block 2. So hope this is as clear as we can make it. Thanks very much.